In this video, we're going to go over how to install Python on Windows in a nice organized way. It's important to keep your Python installations organized from the beginning, as there can be a lot of dependency issues later on in your future projects. This happens a lot with new Python programmers. Eventually, they start to work on a project, and then they're trying to run a certain version of Python that they just installed, but they can't get it to run on that version, and it always runs the other version, which has different libraries, and it becomes a big headache down the road. Even if you've already installed Python previously, this video will show you how to gain total control over your Python installation to use it how you want to. So without further ado, let's get started. First, we're going to see if Python is installed on our machine. To do this, we're going to go to the command prompt and simply type Python. So you can see the default behavior on this machine was to bring up the Microsoft Store with a link to actually download Python, which means that we don't actually have it on our computer. So far so good, we need to download Python. I would not recommend downloading it from here though, because it brings it to a specific program file on your computer that's a little more inaccessible. And if we want full control and customization over our Python installation, it's recommended that we instead go to the Python website to install. So I'm going to exit out of this and the command prompt and open up my web browser and go to python.org. On the Python website, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see this download link to the latest version of Python. If we want a different version, we can go to Downloads All Releases and see the whole list of all the various releases of Python. For this video, I'm just going to install the most recent version, which is 3.13.5. I'm going to click Download, which brings us to the page for Python 3.13.5, which has various information on the various bug fixes or new features for this specific version of Python. Now, if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, we'll find the download links, and we want the Windows installer 64-bit in my case. And so we'll click that, and we'll get the setup file up here. And then once we click on this, we will be directed to the installer. And once we're in the installer, we'll see a couple of options: install now, customize installation, and then two checkboxes at the bottom: use administrator privileges when installing py.exe, and add python.exe to path. Now, a lot of beginners will just click install now and even forget adding this to the path. This is very important. We're going to do it manually later so we understand what it's actually doing, but we're actually not going to just press install now because we want a little more control over where we put Python on our computer. So we're going to click customize installation. And now we can see a bunch of different features like documentation, pip, TCL, idle, Python test suite, PyLauncher. Now, we're going to get rid of a couple of them. We're not going to do the test suite. The test suite is really only useful if you're trying to change Python itself and how it compiles things in the backend. So if you're setting it up on like an HPC or something like that, this is just testing that Python is doing its computation correctly. This is just testing to make sure Python is working properly. Now, the PyLauncher, this has some version control if you have various different installations of Python, but not nearly enough to warrant actually putting it on the computer. So I would recommend not including this. Pip, we need pip. Some of you coming from computational science would have heard of libraries possibly like NumPy, SciPy, Matplotlib, Pandas, and a bunch of others. Pip is how we actually gain access to those libraries. We'll have a version of Python, it will have a pip installer with it, and so we can pip install those libraries to that version of Python. TCL, TK, and idle, this installs something called tkinter and idle. Idle is a place where you can write your Python scripts. It's not generally recommended to use it, but it's very simple and it's a good place to start. Tkinter is a library that gives Python the ability to open up windows on your computer, like the installer that you're seeing right now. This is a window. So for example, Matplotlib, it's a library used for plotting. In order for Python to actually show you the plot and create a window that plot lies in, you need tkinter. So if you skip this and tried to use Matplotlib at some point, you'll get an error saying something about the graphics backend not being correct or none existing, and this is why. And you can't just pip install this. You would have to come back to the Python installer, modify your installation, and then check this box off. But for now, we'll keep these 3 checked and click Next. And here we'll see even more options. The first one being install Python 3.13 for all users. This can only work if you're an administrator. So for example, if I click this checkbox, you'll see that we get the little install with the administrator symbol down here. If you are not an administrator on your computer, you won't be able to do this. And that's okay. We can install to your user specifically. This account that I'm using right now is also not an administrator, so a lot of the steps will be identical. Now, create shortcuts for installed applications. Again, this is more of a personal preference. I don't really like adding a bunch of shortcuts and stuff because I know where everything is on my computer. So I'm going to check that or uncheck that. Now, the important one that most people skip or miss is add Python to environment variables. Now, this is important if you want to use it correctly, but I'm actually not going to check it right now, and we will do it manually. So we're just going to do manually what Python installer would have done for you. This is a way for us to really understand what's happening, and it will become much more clear why we need this. And then pre-compile standard library, we can keep this, that's fine. And then we want to look at the custom installation location. Now, the default one for a new user who's not a administrator is users, your username, app data, local programs, Python, and then a subfolder inside of Python with the correct name. We can put this wherever we want. So I'm going to click browse, and I'm just going to make a new folder inside of the complex to real user folder. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cut out the middleman. I'm going to cut out these 3 folders. So browse, my user, and then I'm just going to press make new folder, and I'm going to call it Python. And then I'm going to actually open this one up as well and make a new folder inside of there called Python, and we're downloading Python 3.13. So Python 3.13 is a good name for it. And press OK. And then we're going to install to this location. And once we have that, we can press install. And once it's done, we get this page with a couple of links to an online tutorial, documentation, and telling us that we can type py in our terminal to launch Python. So let's close out of this and see if we have our fancy new Python installation. So we're going to open up command prompt like we did before, command prompt, and type Python. And you'll see that it opens up the Microsoft Store again, but we just installed Python. So why is it not working? Well, the reason is the whole path variable thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to exit out of this, and we're going to go down here and type environment. And so you'll see edit environment variables for your account. If you're an administrator, you can do edit the system environment variables, right? The difference here being system and for your account. So we're going to click the one that says your account, and we'll bring up this window. And what we have now are environment variables. One of them, the one we care about, is called path. So if we double click on that, we can see that there is something here, some sort of directory pointing to our user profile, app data, local, Microsoft Windows apps. This is where that Python command is currently. We need to tell it where our version of Python actually is. So we're going to create a new path variable, and we can browse. And we're going to go to our folder, complex to real, Python, and Python 3.13. And we're going to click that folder. And there we go. So now if we type Python, you would think it would work. The problem is this one has priority right now. So we can test it real quick. So let's press OK and OK. And we can go to the command prompt again. And what happens is if we type Python, it still won't work because it has priority on this command where it's located. So if we go back and we just change the order of them, so we'll move this one up so that it takes priority and press OK and open command prompt one more time, we can do Python. And now I'm not just going to open Python right now. I'm going to do Python -- version just to see if it's there. And just like that, we have Python 3.13.5. Now from here, we can actually run Python. If we just run the Python command, it'll open up an interactive Python script that we can work in, right? And that's what these 3 arrows are here. So we can type a command like, let's just say we want to print hello world. if I could type, and it prints hello world. If we want to exit Python, we type exit with 2 parentheses, and then we're out of Python. Now, there are some useful troubleshooting tips that we should talk about. For instance, when we switched the order of those path variables, we can see that happen in the command prompt. If we type where Python, this is going to have Windows look to see where the python.exe is. Now, there are multiple, and this is going to give us where all of them are. Previously, before we switched them, it was running the python.exe in that Windows apps folder. So if we type where Python, you can see the first one now is Python 3.13, Python exe. This is the one that we just installed. This one now is second in the list and is in that Windows apps folder. So this is how you can always check. And so another issue that might come up, so for instance, my administrator account on here, it had that install of Python in the system path variables. Those take priority over user path variables. So to show you this, I'm actually going to purposely break this. So if I go to system environment now, it's going to force me to log in as an administrator. So I log in as an administrator and I can see environment variables. Now down here in system variables, we have path as well. Anything in here will take priority over your user. So for instance, let me make a new one and I'm gonna do browse, and I have an installation of Python on the C drive in program files, Python 3.12. So let's use that. And I'm gonna put it all the way at the bottom of the list, right? So I'm just gonna keep that there, press OK, OK, and I'm gonna open up command prompt again. And I'm gonna type Python version. And you'll see we're running Python 3.12, but we were just running Python 3.13. So we can see what is running based off priority. We can type where Python, and you'll see now the system path variable location for Python is taking over, which is Python 3.12. So if you're an administrator account, it's really important that you keep your path out of the system path variable and keep it in user. That way, when another user wants to download Python, they can keep it on there, even if they're not an administrator, and they can still fix their path variables in order to use whatever version they installed. So we come back and fix this by going to system environment variables, logging in as administrator again, environment variables, and get rid of the one in the system path. And delete. And then if we have to restart the terminal. If we keep the terminal open, it's still going to give us the same thing. So we have to restart the terminal. It's easiest just to close out and open it back up. And now if we type where Python, you can see the first one is our most recent installation under the complex to real user. And so if we type Python version, we see we have the correct Python. So we can see by changing the priority of the path variables that we can ignore this Windows apps one. There's also a way to disable it entirely. So if we want to disable it officially and safely, we can go to settings. We can go to apps, advanced app settings, app execution aliases. And if we scroll down, you'll see right here we have an app installer, 2 of them actually. One's python.exe and the other one's Python 3. We can turn these off. That is that path variable. If we turn those off and then restart the command prompt and type where Python, you can see that it's gone now, and now we don't have to worry about it. So that's a way to safely just get rid of the other path variable instead of going in and deleting it manually through the environment settings. Now we want to work with pip, because that's going to be really important for installing other libraries. So if we try to type pip right now just as a command, we can see that it's not recognized, and that's because Windows doesn't know where it is. So we have to go digging to find where it is so that we can add it to the path, just like we did with Python. Now, if you've installed Python before in any way, you know where that is, so I will show you. If you go to your installation of Python, so we'll go to, for us, it was users, complex to real. And then we had a folder called Python 3.13. And then if we look inside of scripts, we'll see all the various pip commands. So this is the folder we want. So we can go back to our user variables and go to path, new, browse, and we want to go to that scripts folder because that's where the pip commands are. So if we go to Python, scripts, and add that, and again, we want to add priority here, so we'll just move it up. We got rid of this as we just showed, but we'll move it up above it anyway. Exit out of that and go back to the terminal. Now, if we restart it and type pip, we get a bunch of stuff. And this is the help essentially for pip. It tells us all the various things we can do with pip. So let's say we just want to pip install matplotlib. Now we can run pip install matplotlib. And it'll install. And so you can do this now for other libraries, but it's important to know that this pip command that we're running lives inside of the Python 3.13 installation. So this matplotlib is going to only be accessible through Python 3.13. If we decided to change to Python 3.12, which was the one I had installed on the other user, that version of matplotlib, because it's installed on there already, might be different. And so if I'm working on a project, this can become really problematic. And so this is why we wanted to make sure we had a nice clean install of Python so that we have a good foundation for working with what's next called environments, where we can set specific versions of Python and different dependencies based off the project we're working on. Feel free to leave questions in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. If you liked the video, consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video where we discuss IDEs and environments.